Hey everyone, Warwick's here. So if you recall, and somewhere in the channel it's in here, and I'll probably throw it up in that corner over there, but I did a video on 3 specs that I felt like needed to be reworked for the War Within. Now in that video, spoilers, I put Arms Warrior, Frost Death Knight, and Windwalker Monk. I'm 2 for 3 now, because Windwalker Monk got reworked. I'm very excited to try it out and play it. Seems like it's been really positive feedback overall. And that we feel pretty good about where it's at. Now it's just a matter of tuning things. And then Frosty K today got announced. So we're still sitting on Arms Warrior. Maybe I get it later, 3 for 3. They made some changes to the class tree for warriors and a little bit of tweaking to the hero trees, but nothing into the spec trees yet. At least nothing significant. So hopefully warriors will get their time to shine. I'm looking forward to seeing what future builds bring in that realm. But today we're talking about Death Knights. Now Frosty K is one of my favorite specs that I have played in World of Warcraft. I really enjoy particularly dual wield builds. For me, I play a human Death Knight. There's a whole headcanon that I have about how that character came to be. So there's a little bit of nerd in me in that regard, like super nerd, about how that happened. And so Frosty K has kind of always been a spec that I've really enjoyed. I'm someone that loves cold weather. I've always been attracted towards things like ice and lightning in terms of weather events. So, which is kind of funny because my brother loves ice. My older brother loves ice. My younger brother loves fire. And I've kind of always been like the lightning guy, but with a little bit of love for frost and fire as well. I'm just kind of an elementalist, I guess. Anyways, tangent. Let's talk about Frosty K. One of my first loves in this game. I would say it's in my top 5 melee specs to play easily. It's right there with Windwalker Monk. I really enjoy playing. I'll probably do a whole video on that, so I'm not going to get into it now. But before we get into the actual changes, I want to read the Blizzard Blue post on this, and then we'll read over the changes, and then we'll look at some talent tree builds. I've been kind of playing with it. Now, I've already read through these changes and kind of formed some opinions on it, so this is not like an initial impression that I've done in previous videos. Hello, Death Knights. This week's alpha update includes another round of changes for Death Knights, this time focused on the Frost Tree. Like our last round of changes for Unholy, we looked at talents that felt more appropriate to be baseline for the spec, and talents that worked better as a 1 rank instead of 2. Notably, we made Fatal Fixation and Rhyme baseline, thank you, reduced Frostwhelp's Aid, Enduring Strength, and cut both Cold-Blooded Rage and Invigorating Freeze, and reduced their new talents to 1 rank. Great. Anytime you can trim a talent tree, I'm in. The goal with the above changes is to cut down on build friction, allowing for more customization as you spec through the tree. These changes, alongside other talent movements and new pathing connections, should help create a better experience for build variety. I'm going to pause right there. I'm not going to do a video on the Unholy changes because I'm not the biggest Unholy fan, and I don't fully understand Unholy on a way that I kind of understand Frost. And I will talk about the class changes when we dive into the talent tree, the class tree changes that were made when I dive into the talent tree, because I do have some thoughts on that. Alright, continuing. We've also created a variety of new talents and added 2 new cap zones that focus on your auto attacks, which should help give some better sustained damage outside of Pillar of Frost windows. These talents also complement both Obliteration and Breath of Sindragosa builds and add some unique gameplay that expands on the Shattering Blade talent node. We've added Razor Ice to the target's unit frame to allow for easier tracking on when to use Frost Strike. Very good base UI update. Frost Scythe has also seen an update to move it out of the regular rotational rune spender to a big heavy hitter on a medium-sized cooldown. I kind of like this because it kind of fits in. Now it fits into the mold of like Wake of Ashes from Ret Paladin or Exploding Keg from Brewmaster Monk, where it's something that you want to talent into particularly for AoE purposes. I'm imagining still, but has the potential to be even a good talent point to spend in single target depending on the final tuning. But you're not expected, it's not going to replace a button. It's instead going to supplement kind of already the base core gameplay, which I don't hate that idea. Its rune cost has been increased to 2, and its damage has been greatly increased, and is always guaranteed to crit strike. Cool. Not surprised by that. It also has a unique mechanic that reduces its cooldown whenever you consume Killing Machine, which has some fun synergy with the suite of new auto attack talents we've added to help your Killing Machine procs. So that right there, anything involving auto attacks kind of screams to me they're wanting to do something with dual wield builds. So I will take a look at the talents here in a little bit, and we'll give you some thoughts on it. Lastly, we've increased Breath of Sindragosa damage to compensate for the loss of uptime from our first round of changes, which should lend itself to a burstier playstyle with less focus on infinite duration buffs. Wonderful. I don't mind Breath of Sindragosa having like a duration cap. to where it's maybe like a 2-minute cooldown with a 30-second duration. So you still get, but it could be shorter if you play poorly, but it's like a max 30 seconds. So good players are always going to get that 30-second window on certain boss fights. But, you know, players that are newer to the spec are going to learn it. Or you could get like a long fortified big pull. It's going to just do giga damage. Like, I'm curious to see what they do. I don't think that there was enough explanation what they're wanting to do with this. I'll keep reading here in a second, but overall, I think breath needs something to change, because right now, basically, it has to be tuned around the fact that you can have it for, you know, 1 minute to 2 minutes at a time. And that kind of hinders what you can do with the playstyle. So I'm curious to see what they're going to do with it. We're keeping an eye on its current runic power cost, which is unchanged since its increase in Dragonflight. From our internal testing, we're seeing 30 to 40 second breaths based on situations, but there are many scenarios where it can feel extremely tight as you wait for runes to replenish, which means we needed to look at its cost per second and pulling out some runic power generation elsewhere. So it sounds like they want to kind of have breaths be no longer than about 30 seconds. I'm okay with that, as long as the damage is compensated, which it sounds like they've done. So Breath of Sindragosa definitely feels like it's a burst window cooldown now, whereas like your Obliteration auto attack, Ice Cap type playstyle is going to be, it sounds like it's going to be a little bit more on the kind of consistent damage profile. We would love your feedback on how the current iteration of Breath of Sindragosa feels on uptime. Tangentially, we still have some work we'd like to do on Obliteration build resources, especially as it pertains to runic power consumption, as it can still be a bit flooded inside cooldowns. I mean, it's got to come back to making runic power feel like it's worth spending over an Obliterate. Like, that's the big thing. So Glacial Advance and Frost Strike just need to do something big inside your cooldowns, that inside a Pillar of Frost, or inside really just inside Pillar of Frost, because it's the only cooldown, that make you feel like you want to do something with it. And right now it doesn't do that, because you basically only spend it to maintain Icy Talons uptime and maybe try to fish for a rune proc, runic empowerment proc. Thank you for your continued feedback. Our next round of changes. All right, so let's look at these changes. New talent, Shattered Frost. When Frost Strike consumes 5 Razor Ice stacks, it deals 50% of the damage. It deals 50% of the damage dealt to nearby enemies. Deals reduced damage beyond 8 targets. Available as a capstone talent after Shattering Blade. So now it's basically making it so that when you consume your Razor Ice stacks, you're going to get AoE damage out of it. So again, it's trying to give an option for more consistent bursty AoE damage, or for more bursty AoE damage coming out of like a dual wield build, because typically unless you're applying Razor Ice in some other way, dual wield builds can run Razor Ice as a secondary rune to Fallen Crusader. Although if Razor Ice is being applied somewhere else, maybe finally we can use Stone Skin Gargoyle. Available as a capstone for Shattering Blade. Cool. New talent, Arctic Assault. Consuming Kill the Machine fires a Glacial Advance through your target. Available in new capstone directly after Obliteration. I think this is actually a very cool talent, because you consume a lot of Killing Machines and then you can get Glacial Advance and go from there. So it adds potentially a lot of AoE runic power spending going on. The question is does this Glacial Advance count as runic power spending? If it's free, then I'm imagining it's not, and you don't really get the rune refund mechanics going. But if it does, for whatever reason, this could be extremely powerful. New talent, Smothering. Excuse me. My bad. Smothering Offense. Your auto attack damage is increased by 5%. This amount is increased per stack of Icy Talons, and Icy Talons you have, and now there's a talent I think that gets it up to 5 now. And you can stack up to 2 additional times, which means you can get up to 7 times. So I'm not sure how that math is going to work. I'll have to see if, like, Taznak or Biceps or some of the real smart DKs out there kind of understand how this works or have played with it on Alpha. So I'm going to reserve judgment. Anything that increases auto attack damage combined with some of the other ideas that they have for auto attacks, though, feels good for dual wield. Probably not so much for two-handed, unless I'm just not thinking correctly about it, which is very possible. New talent, Icy Death Torrent. Your auto attack critical strikes have a chance to send out a sleet of ice, dealing frost damage to enemies in front of you. Again, just really consistent AoE damage profile coming through here. I like it. The Long Winter. You can call it the Long Night. Game of Thrones reference. While Pillar of Frost is active, your auto attack critical strikes increases duration by 1 second up to a maximum of 5 seconds. I like this. Make Pillar of Frost even more powerful than what it is. Makes your cooldown feel super, super impactful. Now, I'm curious to see how they're going to kind of balance that with the fact that right now you need high Pillar of Frost uptime to do the type of consistent damage that you want to do. But when you don't have that Pillar of Frost going, your damage feels really pathetic right now. So a little nervous about trying to maintain that balance or finding that better balance, but we'll see. Frost Scythe has been redesigned. A sweeping attack that strikes all enemies in front of you, so cone type damage it sounds like. This attack always critically strikes, and critical strikes with Frost Scythe deal normal damage, so the normal crit damage. It deals reduced damage beyond 5 targets, consuming Killing Machine. So the question is basically this is going to have to see, is it tuned strong enough to be useful on single target? If so, it's very much like a Wake of Ashes type ability. If it's not, then you're still looking at an AoE ability that has to be tuned in order for it to be useful. So this is entirely going to depend upon tuning, so I hope that they kind of pay attention to this talent in ways that maybe they haven't before. Rhyme is now baseline at level 21. Sure. Breath of Sindragosa damage increased by 25%. Cool. Chill Streak can now bounce off the Death Knight as the second enemy target isn't found. This is really nice for potential Chill Streak tuning. So that's the Season 3 tier set, where it could actually bounce off of yourself. I'm glad they baked that into Chill Streak itself. Makes Chill Streak potentially viable in single target situations or in PvP situations, where you may be dueling 1v1. Enduring Strength is now a 1-point talent and gets a 20% number instead of 10% per rank. So net gain because you gain a talent point, but you keep the same number. Frostwhelp's Aid now grants 8% mastery per target hit, was 4%. So again, same thing. Gain the same maximum amount of mastery, but you gain a talent point. Killing Machine now stacks 1 additional time. So I think they've baked this into Killing Machine itself. Good. Everfrost is now learned in Gate 1 directly after Howling Blast. I actually like that. That's a good change. Frostwhelp's Fury position moved up to Gate 2 and located directly after Ice Cap, Frostwhelp's Aid, and Enduring Strength. So it's no longer a capstone. I like that. Absolute Zero also shifted up to be right below Frostwhelp's Fury. Makes sense. Shattering Blade is now available after Avalanche. Nice. And then the following talents, Fatal Fixation, Cold-Blooded Rage, Invigorating Freeze are gone. Horn of Winter is now in Fatal Fixation's old location, so it's switched sides of the tree. Empowered Rune Weapon is now located in Horn of Winter's old location because it is no longer in the class tree. And Obliteration has replaced Cold-Blooded Rage. So let's take a look at what this looks like on the class tree, or on the tree itself. So I messed around with a single target Breath of Sindragosa build. But let's first talk about the class tree. So one of the things they did with the class tree is they tried to shift a lot of the power up into the tree. So things like A-Bomb's Limb no longer give resource generation. So for Frosty K, for example, it doesn't give the automatic Rhyme procs. Basically does a little bit of damage and is a pull. Much less impactful overall, but still a very powerful node because having Mass Grip, basically, is very good. Soul Reaper has been moved up and it makes it much more viable to grab for all 3 specs. For pure single target builds, think of Fight Like Volcross. Soul Reaper would be very good there. They changed Assimilation and Anti-Magic Barrier so that you're not getting resources off of it. So they're trying to pull out some runic power resources, rune economy. So they pulled it out of these talents, which overall kind of maybe hurts Breath of Sindragosa builds from a duration standpoint. But again, that's intended design, so not upset. Icy Talents has been moved up as well. And a few new talents have been put in here that I think are somewhat interesting. Suppression is kind of meh. Rune Mastery is here. I really like this one down here, Vestigial Shell versus Null Magic. I really like it. The problem is that the problem that I have with this class tree is that you have some really interesting choices here. You can grab things like, you know, I'm grabbing Permafrost because I'm thinking a dual wield build where auto attacks are going to be good and we gain shield based off auto attack damage. It's just going to be a very nice play for dual wield builds, I believe. Mythic Plus, you're going to grab something like Blinding Sleet. Runic Continuation, I think we'll have to kind of see how the new Runic Power stuff plays out. I'm curious to see how this talent kind of finds its way into potential builds. It potentially could be switched out for something like Blinding Sleet for Mythic Plus situations. Control Undead can be obviously grabbed with Unholy Ground. Cleaving Strike's obviously still around, but they've modified it in a way that I think is slightly better, but I don't think fixes the entire issue. So overall, the problem that I have with this class tree is that they didn't do anything to actually like to like fix some of the problems. You're still very limited for choice. Like right here, you have, you know, when you, can I reset this? Here, we'll just do this. So like, you know, we look at our builds here. So 14, I'm just gonna just pick points randomly, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So the right here is our 20, is our final gate. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 with a choice node. 10, basically you have 10 talent choices and a total of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 talent points to spend. Compare this to the monk tree, which I think is now one of the best class trees. We'll just grab conduit. When you look at their last row, which is starts right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 nodes with a couple of choice nodes in there. And as a result, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 talent points that you can spend down in the bottom of this tree, which means you have some real true choice in how you spend your talent points. You can do things like, do you want to get more mobility, so you grab lighter than air? Do you want to grab something that allows for like brewmasters? You can grab something like clash, or you can grab rushing reflexes to allow you to close gaps. You can grab touch of death or fatal touch to give you more DPS. You can grab something like flow of chi to give you some variation on your health bar. And then you have your 2 cool transcendence talents here. Windwalking might actually be worth it if they ever make the movement speed a little bit better. You can choose or not choose to get Transcendence Transfer. If you don't find a lot of ways to do some fun Transcendence tech in a boss fight, you can skip it because you can go grab something like Chi Proficiency, or you can grab Bounce Back, or you grab Martial Instincts. Like, there's a ton of choice in the bottom part of this tree that just Death Knight did not get. And I think that's my biggest problem with the Death Knight tree, is that it doesn't actually give you, it's the illusion of choice, because you're still forced to kind of come down very specific pathing. They need to do more to flesh out the bottom part of this tree and give you more options to be able to customize your build, and they didn't do that. Alright, now let's take a look at the class tree real quick. I'm keeping an eye on my time because I have raid coming up soon. So Frost Strike at the top, cool. Obliterate, Howling Blast, Killing Machine, and Everfrost, all kind of standard. Unleash Frenzy. Let's look into like a non-Breath of Sindragosa but dual wield based build. So you're going to want to grab Unleash Frenzy, Improved Frost Strike, and you're going to grab Improved Rhyme. We'll focus in single target for now. Improved Obliterate, which means you're probably going to want to grab something like Frigid Executioner. Obviously grab Pillar of Frost and grab Biting Cold. Empower Rune Weapon, I think you'll definitely grab. You're definitely going to grab Ice Cap and Frost Roam's Fury. I think you grab Murderous Efficiency as well. And then I think you get Gathering Storm, because it's always good. And then here's Cryogenic Chamber. I don't know if this talent is actually going to be any good, because like it empowers your Remorseless Winter, but you're kind of casting Remorseless Winter on cooldown. So I don't know. I could be wrong. If you're ever going to stack this to the max 20, and then how much of that, like, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it's going to be worth it. So we have 2 points left to spend here, so, and we actually have some options. I think you grab Enduring Strength all the time. I think it's just very, very good, because you get the strength, the post-Pillar of Frost strength gain. And then I think you can probably grab something like Frostwhelp's Aid. It just kind of depends. If Frost Scythe is worth in single target, you could grab it. If Chill Streak's damage is worth it, then you can grab it as well. Again, thinking single target. I don't think you'll need Horn of Winter here, because ideally your rune generation is going to be fine, and Inexorable Assault is like, it's always been kind of meh. So for the purposes of this, I'm actually going to I'm going to assume that Frost Scythe is good in single target, and then we're going to kind of ignore Breath of Sindragosa. This is a talent that is yet to see play, so obviously that's going to impact everything, but Breath of Sindragosa now true capstone. So let's look at our talents here. So we have Bone Grinder. Basically you get up to 5% critical strike for consuming Killing Machine. I think you're going to take this into Obliteration, into Arctic Assault. Well, in single target, I think you still take this because it's basically free rooting power. And I think you grab Avalanche still, because this is how you're going to apply your Razor Ice. So this will freeze up your Rune Forge to grab Fallen Crusader, and then you know, Stone Skin Gargoyle or potentially Apocalypse. We'll see. And I'm going to go ahead and assume that we're going to grab some auto attack stuff here. So we're going to grab Smothering Offense, get the damage here, Icy Death Torrent, and the Long Winter. We're going to grab Shattering Blade, and we're going to grab Shattered Frost. Now, all of a sudden, I think I've got a pretty good single target build here that has some real potential with dual wield setups. And I'm very excited by that possibility, or I'm at least optimistic about the possibility. Switch it up for AoE, you probably grab something like Frostwhelp's Aid. In that, you can switch out something like Improved Frost Strike, which you need to get so you can get Pillar of Frost. But you could potentially you know, you could switch out things like Frigid Executioner or Murderous Efficiency to grab things like Icebreaker. You know, like this is going to be like the real true like pivot point here, I think. But I think you kind of just play this, and then if you're going to be playing like if you wanted to switch to a Breath of Sindragosa build, you probably trade out these two plays of Shattering Blade and Shattered Frost, and maybe even Avalanche, and play Razor Ice on your talent build to grab Icebreaker into whatever this is going to be. Now, the one thing I would like to see is Icebreaker be changed to like these two here just feel like they're a little bit punishing. I'd like to maybe see them move down to 1-point talents, and that opens up more build diversity. But overall, I think this is a good direction. I'm gonna check a look and see what the quote-unquote pro Frost Death Knights guys think about it. But as a Frost DK lover, but not an expert, I'm optimistic about this change. I'm really excited from the perspective of someone that loves playing dual wield builds. I'm very curious to see what this is going to do for the specs dual wield viability, and does it actually allow for a dual wield non-Breath of Sindragosa playstyle to emerge that isn't just a giant fucking meme, which is kind of what dual wield obliteration is right now. Overall, pretty positive on the way the Death Knight's going. Class tree I still think needs to be undergo some big changes at the bottom of the tree in particular to remove the illusion of choice and give actual choice. But overall, I think this is a good start. I'm definitely curious to see what kind of things they do. Is it enough to get me to play DK in the War Within? I've been debating between Death Knight and Warrior as my plate class. Unholy, I'll have to kind of see how that plays on and how it feels, but like I would just rather play Frost over Unholy. And Blood, I'm not the biggest fan of, whereas I do like both DPS Warrior specs, and I want to learn Prot Warrior. So right now I still probably lean Warrior, but I like what they've done with Frost DK. I want to see maybe something done with Blood DK to make it a little bit more interesting to play, because right now it doesn't feel that interesting to play. It's kind of boring, in my opinion. But we'll see. Long road to go still. We're not even out of alpha yet, so lots and lots of new builds to go. Lots of changes obviously coming. They're focusing kind of on one or two specs at a time, and for the most part, I think they've hit it out of the park. I'm not a big fan of the Brewmaster changes, though. Looking into feedback, I'm apparently among the only ones, but I still stand by everything I said in my Brewmaster video. But other than that, for the classes that I know, they've done very, very well with these class changes, and I'm excited to see how classes play in the War Within. Until the next video, I hope you all stay safe. Hope you're enjoying yourself. You're having fun. Keep on gaming. I'll see you next time.